All right, so we're gonna go ahead and do a super simple sunflower. And I'm doing this all on a black canvas, which has already been painted black. And then I'm using just my primary colors plus black and white. So I want you to paint your canvas black, let it dry. And then we're gonna use a medium-ish round paintbrush to do pretty much all of this. We're gonna keep it really simple today. And the first thing I'm gonna do is go ahead and find out where the center of my flower is gonna be and start building my petals out. So to do that, we're gonna go ahead and start with white only. So I'm just getting some white on there. And I want my flower to be kind of centered. So find the center of your canvas and I'm gonna go right in the middle. And I'm gonna make a little dotted ring. So make a dot in the middle, that's the middle of my canvas. And then I'm gonna go above that and make an oval out of dots coming up like this. And then it's just an oval. So you can kind of adjust it. And then from there, I'm gonna pull out and then in towards that dot. So say I want a petal to be here. I'm gonna push really lightly and then push harder as I come to the dot and then let go once I get to my dot. And I'm gonna keep doing that. So you can pull out and then push, come out and then push. So it's just this process of layering these little things, and you can add little ones in between if you want, but you want them to touch around the edges. And then they can move in different directions too. So let them be a little crazy. It's fun to do that. And then I'm just gonna go all the way around. Maybe at the top, I want them to be a little shorter. And then here, I'm just gonna pull out. Notice how I can just build it all the way around like this. So fun. Sunflowers are super fun to paint because you can make the leaf petals all crazy and just have fun with it. And I can always go in and adjust them and make them different lengths and stuff. So, you know, just because you painted it doesn't mean it's set in stone. You can always change things and paint over things. But notice how I give a little bit of movement. You can have some kind of wiggling and going in different directions. And then you can fill in, if there's too big of a gap between some of your brush strokes, you can always fill it in. All right, now that is good. Now what I want to do is go ahead and let that dry a little bit. And while that dries, I'm going to paint the stem. So the stem, I'm going to do blue. I'm not cleaning my brush. I'm leaving a little tiny bit of white on there, but I want to do blue with a little bit of yellow to create a green. And it can be like medium green. It doesn't need to be too dark or light. And then I'm going to go right to the right side of the flower. So like I want to make it seem like it's turning a little bit to the left. So I'm going to put my stem over on the right side. So I'm going to come out from this space right here. Like it's kind of come right here. And then pull my stem out and then pull it down towards the center. So see how I just made a brush stroke and then just kind of wiggled it down here. Now I can have a couple of little brush strokes coming out of that or some petals. And I'm just gonna be like, okay, there's a line that goes diagonal up a little bit. And then kind of like we did the petals for the leaves, I'm gonna do these leaves for the stem. So I'm gonna push a little harder at first, or softly at first, and then push a little harder to get the bigger part of the leaf, and then release pressure as you get to that little line that you're trying to do. Now you can even do a one brush stroke kind of thing, which is kind of fun to play with. So if you get your brush with your green and then take like the right side to add some extra yellow to the tip, so you can see how there's a little extra yellow on one side of the brush. And then you can go and do, like I can start here and I can push harder and then release pressure And then it kind of gives it a little bit of a highlight because you had a little extra yellow on the right side of your brush. It's something fun to play with and experiment with. There's some people who make it their whole thing to do that, but you can try it again just for fun. So if you have the blue, add a little yellow to the right, and then we'll put one down here. Push, and then release. And then I can do that again right next to it to make it bigger. So it's kind of fun to see how that turns out. You know, you can always change it. I like doing just experimenting with things like that for fun. Okay, and then I'm going to clean the brush. Still just using the same paintbrush. Now, we're going to wait for that to dry a little bit. While it does, let's go ahead and make some darker colors here. I'm going to take red and blue and make some purple, but I want heavy on the red so that it's kind of like a burgundy. And then I'm going to go into my flower in the center and start dabbing right in the middle, just making a little circle right in the middle of that shape. And then I can even take that color and just lightly brush it into the bottom of the white part that we just put down of the petals. I'm just going all the way around. This blue with a lot of red. And then I'm going to clean the brush again. And then before we go in to add more to this, we're going to make our color for the flowers. So we have a little bit of that burgundy color inside here. I know it's hard to see because it's on the black, but then I put it towards the base of the leaves. And now I want to create another color for the sunflower petals, which is going to be, I'm still using white. So clean your brush when you're ready to do this, and then using yellow, a lot of yellow, and then a little bit of red. Make sure you have a little white in there. That's going to help it be more opaque. And then I'm just going to layer over. And notice how I can just pull it right, maybe even make them a little bigger in some parts if you want. I'm going to pull right to where the burgundy is, but you can overlap a little bit, but don't cover it all the way. Now, once I have that in there, I actually want to take that color and then let there be some brush strokes in the background. Like maybe there's just petals falling. So I can do these little brush strokes like this in the background. Make sure you have enough white in your brush. And so just little dabs floating around in the background could look kind of pretty. And then I can also take that color and start dabbing in the center. So what I'm going to do is go in the middle and do little dabs. And I'm going all the way to the left of the center on the left side. So see, I'm going really close to the petals right here. But then on the right, I'm going to leave kind of a gap. So see how I'm going to leave like more dark color right here. It's going to make it look like it's turning a little bit. So we want to have some dark color right here. And I actually want a little bit of less shadow on the petals on the right. Maybe there's still some, but I'm going to pull some of that yellow over the burgundy a little bit so it's not too much. And you can do that here too. Make sure you don't have too much of that shadow. I'm kind of just adding some more yellow on the base so it's not too much of that burgundy. And we'll be adjusting with some different shades. I also want to do orange, so I'm going to add red to my yellow to make more of an orange color. And then this is going to be fun to brush in towards the bottom of the petals. I'm just adding red to the yellow and brushing it in right at the base of these petals, little bits at a time. And then you can also add some of that orange in the background. So I can do the same thing, like little falling leaves back in there. Or you can even do like little dots. So try to make some different size brush marks. Some can be big, some can be small. And I'm gonna go ahead and clean the brush again. I wanna work just a little more on the stem. So I wanna take just some yellow on the brush, and I'm gonna go ahead and put a little bit of a highlight on the stem and the leaves a little more deliberately. So from the stem here, I wanna start my highlight a little lower. I want it to be darker up here. And then I'm gonna highlight just on the left side like that with a little bit of yellow. And I'm going to go all the way down on the left side. I'm just skipping over where the leaf is coming out. And then I can add a little bit more highlighting to the top of the leaves by just taking a little bit of extra yellow on there and dabbing it at the top. And you can even make some little lines on there for texture. Like if you want to make it look a little funner, play around with that. I'm not going to get too crazy. The next color I want to use is pink, but I'm actually going to switch to a smaller brush so that we get some more finer lines. So switch to a smaller round brush. Notice how this one's pretty thick and then this one's a little thinner. Just do your preference. But I'm going to do kind of like a reddish color, so just add some red to your brush only. And then I'm going to go in and put that really close to the base of the petal, right kind of next to that burgundy color. or even overlapping a little bit. Painting is all about layering. So the more layers, different shades you have, the more interesting it's going to start looking. So it's just, you know, so fun to play with. And then I'm going to add some white to it to create some pink. And then I can add that to the petals. Now that can go anywhere. That can even go further out on the tips a little bit, like maybe not too far, but you know, you're kind of going out from the base a little more as it gets lighter. And I'm just adding a little pop of that pink. And then I can also add that in the background with some of these. You can even change some of the orange or yellow ones into pink if you'd rather see pink. If you feel like, oh, I got too many yellow ones, then change them. Easy to change. Can do some different shades. Maybe I do a dark pink and then I do a light pink. So add more white for a light pink. And then I want to even take some of that pink into the center of the sunflower and do some more dabbing. Now, another thing you can do, and I'm going to do a little bit of, is go back and dab more dark color again. So you can use that red and blue mix. So if I just mix red and blue, it's actually pretty dark. And then I can go in and maybe I want to dab a little bit more here to create a little more darkness at the base of the petals. Or maybe you want to create a little more darkness in the center, like where those little dots are. Maybe you got too many or something and you want to adjust it. So that's what that's there for. I mean, you can always go in and kind of take that back a little bit if you need to. And then if you've got enough of that, you can clean your brush. Maybe you want to go back and add more orange again with the smaller brush. I can add some orange. Maybe you want to add some orange in the center. To soften it a bit. Or you can go back and add more yellow or white or pink. Any of the colors you want. I'm going to do a little more pink here because I like it. And you can even do some white. So I'm going to go in and add some white too. Just pure white. This outer kind of area of this center. Just to the left side to brighten the left side of that little ring up. But if you find the white too harsh, just use like light pink or light yellow or something instead. So it's always something you can adjust. And then maybe you take some white to the tips of your petals just to add like a highlight. So this kind of makes it look fun. And if it always gets too much, you can always come back with more yellow. So, you know, the yellow is always there for you to come in and be like, ooh, that highlight kind of took over. Now I don't want my sunflower to have a completely white petal. So then come back with the yellow. Maybe you add more of that yellow to the center. And then maybe you use black to touch things up too. So maybe I want to add some black at the base of my flowers. You can even pull a little bit out at the bottom to create some more texture in some spots. So sometimes like things get a little too bright and then you need to darken them up to create contrast. So don't be afraid to do that if it needs to happen. It's fun to do that and break things up. I might break up some of the dots here in the middle by just bringing some black in between some of the brighter colors to just make sure it doesn't look too crowded there with the bright colors. And again, I want the right side of this ring to be a little more subtle, so I can tap a little bit of black in there so that the left side is brighter and thicker. And then if you don't like anything, you can kind of erase it with the black. So maybe you have like a couple little dots you don't like, or maybe some of the petals you don't like, or maybe you want to just fine tune the tips of some of the flowers. Maybe the tips got, you know, a little too crazy, or you want to make it look pointier. The black is there for you to kind of go in and carve into stuff. You don't have to, but I'm just showing how you can, so you can smooth things out and kind of fine tune it a little bit more. So at this point, I would just suggest, you know, playing, maybe you add a little more pink again to the center. I kind of want to see more pink in the middle or wherever. Maybe more petals. Maybe I even actually want to add like a light pink highlight to the stem. So I'm going to add another highlight that's going to look even brighter right on top of the yellow with pink. So I'm just adding a little bit of that, going in here, going in here, and going on top of there. So maybe you do that, maybe you don't. You do not have to. So sometimes these choices can be really spontaneous and just playful. You got to do what feels fun for you. And maybe I do some like white dots. I don't know. I like adding white dots sometimes. So just, especially for a black canvas, you can just go in and add some white dots like around in the background maybe to give it a little sparkle. Like little clusters of them. Kind of look pretty. But don't feel like you have to do any of these things. Like you could just leave it with the petals flying around, or it could even just be black. Like you don't have to do any of this. I like to remind people of that because sometimes they're like, oh, they said that to do it and that must be better. Not necessarily. Just because I'm doing it doesn't mean it's better. Like you might have an idea that's better than mine. I can even add a little bit more highlighting with white. So you can go on top of the pink and add some white. But maybe you want some more shadow for your stem too. You can always use black, or sorry, blue with a little bit of yellow and a little bit of black. So if I add a little bit of black into my blue and yellow, it's going to create like a really dark green. So, you know, make green by mixing blue and yellow and then add a little black to it. And then I can make sure that this part is darker, like under here. A little bit of black is going to help. It should look, you should still see it against the black background, so it's not too dark. But we want the right side to look a little darker than the left side. And we want the underside of the petals to look darker than the top parts. So if you got to go in and do that with the adding a little bit of darker color, then do it. So however you got to get there, it's up to you. And then it can be so playful, so playful. And then again, your black is like your eraser. So you could take your black and be like, I don't want the little white dots. So then just go in and dab the black over it and make them go away. So this is something I do all the time. Like I'll do a couple things. I'll be like, oh, I really like this. But then I feel like, oh, that was too much. And then I don't like it. So then I take it away. I don't even like these little orange dots either. So this is where you can be like, ooh, maybe I like what you did. Maybe I don't. It is not, nothing set in stone here. And doing the black canvas is so easy. So easy to adjust. Like, it's so fun. I do want to add some white in the background, but I'm going to do more of those same petal shapes instead of dots. I thought maybe I would like the dots, but I'm like, I do. I don't think they look bad. So maybe you like them and you want to keep them. But I kind of just want to do more of the petals floating. So I'm going to do some white petals, and maybe I'll just put a highlight on some of the yellow ones instead of doing new ones. So I could just take some white and highlight the yellow or the orange or the pink and just make it look a little brighter. So I'm adding another color, but I'm not necessarily adding more busyness to it. But you can do a few if yours looks like it needs some more action. So it's totally up to you. I'm gonna let it go because we're just going for like a fun, festive little sunflower, and maybe make it looks like it's turning a little bit to the left. You have all those different colors that we put in the petals are like floating out into the empty space, which again can paint any of it over with black and just leave the canvas totally black if you wanted to as well. But hopefully you had fun. Maybe you learned a little bit. Give a like, a subscribe to support the channel, and then like share it if you know somebody else who might enjoy painting something like this. And have a beautiful rest of your day. Thanks for watching.